She's a legend, one of the greatest tennis players in the history of the game. But the biggest challenge of Chris Evert's life, Tracy Smith tells us, came long after her heyday and off the court.
Okay, stop.
It's not every day you'll find a tennis legend who's just finished chemotherapy giving free lessons on a Miami public court in 95-degree heat.
I want both of them over the net. That's the goal. Hit through the ball.
Then again, there aren't many legends like Chrissy Evert. A superstar since age 16, she was a force in women's tennis throughout the 70s and 80s, winning 90% of the matches she played, more than any player in history. But today, at age 67, with 3 grown sons of her own, she's living for passing it on.
So what do you think when you come to this place?
I think give.
This place is one of 260 NJTLs, or National Junior Tennis and Learning Centers. It's free for the kids and funded by the U.S. Tennis Association Foundation. The first one was started by another legend, Arthur Ashe.
It's fulfilling and taking care of the whole child, not just the athletic part of the child, which I love.
Inhale, bring your arms up.
When they're not on the courts, the kids here learn yoga, do some schoolwork, and talk about their feelings.
How are you? Are you happy?
And they end up with more than just a better backhand.
What do you learn here?
I learn how to exercise. I learn how to be nice and be kind.
What is it about working with these young people that gets you?
Basically, I can relate to these kids because I was one of those kids growing up.
Evert was raised on Florida's public courts. Her dad, Jimmy Evert, was the head pro at Holiday Park in Fort Lauderdale, and he taught all 5 of his kids to play tennis.
That's good.
My sister Jeannie and I were professional tennis players, and the other 3 got college scholarships and played #1 for their colleges. And so my dad didn't have to, he didn't have to spend a cent.
Jeannie went pro, but what set you apart?
I think the hunger that I had. I think inside, I wanted it more than anybody.
Back at her home are the memories of that teenager who crossed over from court star to cover girl.
Wow. On the cover of Newsweek at age 17.
I know, yeah.
Holy moly.
The women take over in the 70s, 72.
It was just the beginning.
And so it's championship point for Miss Evert.
At 19, Evert won her first 2 Grand Slams, surprising even her dad, who didn't believe her when she called to say she'd won Wimbledon.
They didn't televise matches, they taped them and then they play them later. So he had no idea. So I came off the court and went right into the sort of the office. And I said, Dad, I won.
It was Evert's breakthrough, not just in tennis, where she won 16 more slam titles, but in American culture.
This is an Andy Warhol.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, he did a series of 8 athletes.
Though all of it came at a cost.
I do believe that there's a price to pay. There's a price to pay for almost everything in life.
What do you mean there's a price to pay?
I think that my fame at a young age, and I really didn't get to have the freedom to develop the authentic me at a young age. I didn't go to college. I joined the tour right away. And, I think people that, again, are always told you're the greatest and patted on the back, and people can't say no to them. I don't think I've ever gotten a ticket in my life because policemen have pulled me over many times and seen that I'm Chris Evert, and they go, I'm such a big fan of yours, I'm going to let you go. And I think when that happens, years and years and years and years and years, I think you become a little entitled and a little enabled, and I'm the first to admit that I feel like that affected my relationships with people and with my marriages, and I think you pay a price.
Evert has been married and divorced 3 times, but she's always stayed close to her family. 5 years ago, she and her sister Jeannie were running through an airport when Chris knew something wasn't right.
And I look back, and Jeannie's like walking and huffing and puffing.
And that was not Jeannie.
And she's an athlete. And I said, Jeannie, what's wrong? She goes, I don't know, I think that I have like a lung infection.
As soon as she got home, Jeannie saw her doctor.
So she made an appointment, went in, and basically they found out that she was stage 4 ovarian cancer. And she lived for 2 more years.
After the heartbreak of losing Jeannie, the family then learned she had the BRCA gene mutation, which means she had a higher risk for ovarian and breast cancer. So Chris got tested and found out she carried it too.
So you decided just right away, as soon as you heard that you had the BRCA gene, I'm going to get a hysterectomy?
Yeah, well, my doctor recommended it too. It's like, why take the chance? So I had a total hysterectomy with everything out. And my doctors considered it a preventive surgery. And they were so, great, you've prevented surgery. We're fine. And then all of a sudden, 5 days later, I get a call from my doctor, and he says, Chrissy, I am in shock just as much as you're going to be in shock, but you had cancer in your fallopian tubes and in your ovaries. So I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go in for more surgery. So 10 days later, after I healed, I went in again for another surgery. And it was the longest, like 3 or 4 days of my life, because it would be a matter of I was either stage 1 or like stage 3, or even stage 4.
What were you thinking?
Tied up in knots for 3 days. Tied up in knots, because I knew this is a bad cancer.
You've seen Jeannie go through it.
I saw Jeannie go through it. I saw the needles and the pain and the agony that she had to, the chemos and, endless being in the hospital. And she was like 80 pounds when she passed away. It was a horrible, horrible experience for her, and to see her go through that. So I was like, Jeannie, please help me with this. And I got a call from my doctor, and he said, you're all clear. But you have to go through chemotherapy.
Had she waited even 3 months for her surgery, she could have been stage 4. But in May, after 6 chemo treatments, Evert was declared cancer-free.
In your case, your sister Jeannie essentially saved your life.
My sister saved my life.
And Chris Evert is using every last minute.
Good. Do you think about legacy?
No.
You don't?
No.
Why not?
Because, legacy is already patting yourself on the back. I don't think about that. I don't think about patting myself on the back.
So what drives you now?
I think to be a mentor, because I've lived such an interesting life and I've acquired a lot of wisdom, and I feel like I can give that to people. Very good. Nice backhand.
A legend with so much more still to give.
Very good. Very good.